And here we go. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. We are back to doing a live stream. I have been in Europe for a month, and then I just finished being in the Grand Canyon for 8 days, 2 miles straight down into the Earth's core, literally 2 billion-year-old rocks. That's where the Colorado River snakes all the way through the Grand Canyon. You take away the Colorado River, by the way, and everyone in California dies. Every single person in California dies. That entire state, the 5th largest economy on earth, is reliant on one river. One! And it happens to go right down the middle of the Grand Canyon. But when you're visiting the Grand Canyon, you're up so high, you look down, it just goes down like this forever, and you see, I don't know, nothing at the bottom. That's where I was. On the bottom, 277 miles of whitewater river rafting. No electricity, no data, nothing. Zero for 8 days. Total hardcore roughing it. Awesome experience. Well, let's go to the unawesome for a moment, and let's talk about what is going on in America with our politics. Now, Europeans look at us and laugh. They see like 8-year-olds in 70-year-old bodies making decisions. We have Comic-Cons going on where we have people with white hair dressed as Batman. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's so normal for us. But they wonder. So we're going to talk with our usual expert panel today, which of course would be Rory Penland, man of 1,682 voices. Hello, Rory.
Were you down in the Grand Canyon with Samuel L. Jackson? It's snakes all through the Grand Canyon.
He's right. I did see a couple of rattlesnakes coiled up. They apparently, when you kick them, they get upset and they make the little rattly noise. And then you must leap backwards to avoid getting bitten. I'll tell you what I did see that was cool. Tarantula in the breakfast tray, which kind of fucks up a waffle. And we were eating gourmet food because when you go without data, without cell phones, electricity, without a turlet for 8 days, the food better be good. It's like living in New York City. Horrible place. Horrible. It's like LA. It needs to be power washed. It's disgusting, but good restaurants. It's the only way people can survive. So the food was great. But the tarantula's not so great. And there isn't a set of special tongs that's been invented yet for tarantula plucking. So you just have to kind of throw it all down.
Call Shark Tank. Tarantula plucking tongs.
Yes. Can you imagine pitching that? Now, let me tell you, fellas, I know it's not really a big problem, but it's a big problem for people in the Grand Canyon, 2 miles down, and there's 20,000 of them a year. They go through this thing. They're going to encounter a tarantula. Let me tell you. So you need tongs, special tarantula tongs that you actually grab a tarantula by a single hair, by the little hispidulates that come out. You grab one, you pick it up, and you fling. Notice the automatic trigger. It's spring. Boom, pops the tarantula right over your shoulder. Bingo, $84.99. Mark Cuban would buy half dozen, I'm sure.
Get them tarantulas off your waffles.
Now, you really want to have some fun. I saw the first cow killer I've ever seen, and I'd never heard of a cow killer. You have it? What do you think a cow killer is? I didn't know either. So there's no right or wrong answer.
I know what a cow tipper is. They tip them cows over when they're sleeping, standing on their feet. But I've never seen a cow killer.
A cow killer is a kind of giant ant that's about this long, and it flies. So it's really a wasp or hornet that is this long, in its ass curves and hangs, and you can see the dripping syringe that's flying slow motion. Now, I thought it was a hummingbird because I'd seen one in the canyon, and it's a good sign. It's like good luck, and it means the air is clean. Then there's this blue-colored something that's flying really slowly into the camp, and I thought it was like a sick hummingbird. And then I get a look at it, and it's a fucking giant hornet this long, and it lands. Boom. and it's pissed because it's a cow killer. The reason it's called a cow killer is a single sting, one, will take down a cow to full expiration. If that thing gets you, you're cooked. You won't even have a chance to say, ouch. It's that venomous with a giant fucking syringe.
And you saw one of these, did you?
Yeah, it was a cow. I took pictures of it. I was walking around. And the only reason I was able to take actually video and pictures of it, because I'm terrified of these things, is the boatman. The boatman, you're rafting down the Grand Canyon, but it's level 10. You can't go in like your own raft. Oh, I think I'll just go rafting down. No, it's a federal park. It's totally regulated, and you have to have a certain level of boat. She got an outboard motor on the back, and the boatman just sees this flying thing that he hadn't seen either, and just like takes a knife and goes bang in the middle of the air, and it just goes plop on the ground. That's why it was pissed. So it was a wounded cow killer. Yeah. So it was a beautiful sight. And I may tell a story or two. But before we do that, let's bring in the great Renee Yawarski.
Why, thank you.
There she is. There she is.
I've been so eager to hear about the Grand Canyon stuff. I'm arachnophobic, so I think that a tarantula anywhere near my waffle would mean I couldn't eat breakfast for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'll show you a picture.
Much less a cow killer.
A cow killer, not tamer. There was nothing tame. So first, if you get, I mean, I don't know how well you're going to see this thing.
Oh, I can see something. I see something. I just saw something. Oh, yeah.
I spy with my eye something that I would not want to sting me.
I can't. I just don't want anything to do with that. No, sir.
Now, you'll get how huge this is.
Oh, goodness.
When it goes past the boat cushion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is not your average insect. This is a horse of a different color, as they'd say. Look at that, next to my foot. It's huge.
8-legged freaks, too.
Yeah. You want that thing flying and stinging you? No. You're a dead duck.
But you didn't try to stomp on it.
No, you're not allowed to kill wildlife out there as much as I really wanted to. Here's the tarantula. This one's for Renee.
No! I saw just enough. Okay. That's enough. Okay, you can pull that down now. Thank you, darling. That's it. I'm good. I'm got
a white spot on its back.
At least it's not, yeah. Well, I'm never sleeping again. That's nightmare fuel for the next 37 years.
Well, yeah.
Fantastic.
So this is the world in there. So I take people on these tours that are really awesome. And this is one of them that I do every year called Splash. And I took 11 gay guys down the Grand Canyon, down the Colorado River, level 10 rapids. And you really sit on your fanny and you let the guy with the outboard motor handle the route. So you just really get wet and eat gourmet food. But you are in real nature and you are 2 miles down and there is no communication to the outside world. So we were wondering, what if Donald Trump had had a heart attack from eating too many McDonald's that day or whatever? How would we know? We would not know. We would not know until we emerged 8 days later. So we wondered if we would hear any news. And then we find out that, of course, Bobby Kennedy has endorsed Trump. Bobby Kennedy. Bobby friggin' yes.
The guy that dumped a baby bear in Central Park.
That's a real photo that he staged with that particular baby bear carcass that people think. Now, there was an autopsy done in that bear, and there were issues where it was, yes, blunt force consistent with a traffic accident. But first of all, we don't know that it wasn't him. He said it was some other car that hit it. But then there were also some other marks on it that seemed to show defacing of the carcass after, post-mortem. And then, of course, he's taking this photo and pretending that it's biting him. This is his sense of humor. Now, this does not compare to what his daughter said several years ago, about a decade ago. His daughter had a wonderful daddy memory. And she said this was just like every day with her dad. Her dad woke her up one day and said, okay, we got to go to the beach and we got to take this chainsaw because there was a beached whale carcass already dead, and they were going to saw off the head of it. And so that's what he did. He brought his daughter down there. They decapitated the dead whale, and then he put it on top of their station wagon. And then they had to drive with it on their roof for the next 4 hours back home. And she said that, because he tied it around the windows, and some of the windows were kind of open. So whenever he would brake, there would be juices rancid juices that would flow in through the windows. And she said everybody in the other cars were giving us the finger and flipping us off and yelling at us. And she said, for us, this was just a normal part of our childhood. But the smell of the juices was so awful for that 4.5-hour trip that he gave them plastic bags, and they cut out little holes for their mouths so they could breathe, so that the juices didn't get in their hair and in their eyes. So that was another normal part of their childhood. So actually, this makes this kind of look tame, to be honest.
Keith Moulter on Facebook is saying, privilege. And then I'll stick to the 11 gay guys that went down the American River with this past week. No bugs, no bears, no brainworms. Some of them must have been bears.
Oh, my. Did you take George Takei with you? Oh, my. Bears and brainworms and whaleheads. Oh, my.
This is, I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago. I was on a cruise with Bobby Kennedy. It was called a Progressive Voices Cruise, and it was back in the days of Air America, which was the progressive talk radio network. And I was in LA, and I was doing nights on Air America, and we had Rachel Maddow, and we had Bobby Kennedy, we had Mike Lux, we had all kinds of progressives from Vanity Fair, from this, from that, and the listeners. Took a bunch of listeners, and Bobby was this advanced lawyer, professor, whose interest was in keeping rivers clean. So he was really, his whole bag was clean rivers, just clean rivers and civil rights for everyone and all of this stuff. And he was a proper Kennedy, just his own version. And I helped get that guy on air, not on Air America, on Pacifica, which is KPFK in Los Angeles, KPFA in San Francisco, KPFT in Houston, in Washington, D.C., in New York on WBAI. So I got him at all the major markets just because I know how to do that shit. And he was on the radio, and then something happened. And it turned into an anti-vaxxing thing over time because he's got dysphonia. And you've heard his voice. Rory, you can probably imitate it to some degree.
I haven't heard him enough to be honest with you. I don't watch the guy that much, so I haven't heard him enough to do him.
He basically talks
He's
like
got a kind of a gruff thing going on, right?
No, it's not gruff. It's straining and difficult. This actually is probably pretty close. And he blamed, it's called dysphonia, and he blames it on too much mercury from eating game fish. Because you see, when you live on Cape Cod and you're in any of your sailing yachts and you're catching too many game fish like swordfish or sailfish, and you eat too much of that meat, you can have too much mercury exposure. Again, as Keith Moulter would say, privilege. So he actually, unlike regular people who get mercury poisoning from being next to smokestacks or working in coal mines, he gets it from eating too much swordfish. So this really was sort of the birth of the anti-vaxxers. He then included MMRA vaccines, really all vaccines, because they all have mercury in them as adjutants. So mercury is in, say, your flu vaccine or some of them as a preservative. That's the only reason it's in there. And we know that mercury in sufficient quantities does cause neurological conditions. So it's not untrue that too much of it can do X, Y, and Z. And we don't exactly know why he's got dysphonia. But he was really the only voice out there causing doubt about vaccines. And it's not that anyone needed to have doubt, and it's not that it was even a thing, but he made it a thing. He made it a thing. And then COVID comes around, and he realizes that he can go from kind of the invisible Kennedy, the unknown Kennedy, even though the son of the guy that was, assassinated, because 2 Kennedys were assassinated, but he's just kind of unknown because he's not funny or anything. He's not. He definitely has had his share of women, but only the women know that. It was never on TV. You know what I'm saying? So
because he would get Teddy to drive them home.
That's exactly maybe what happened. Uncle Teddy, you drive him home. So long and short of it is, he realizes, much as Marianne Williamson and others, that there is real power in taking a side and becoming this like unique voice for stuff that other people simply aren't talking about. And it doesn't mean it's untrue. It's just kind of fringy, and you build these giant audiences. And so he's talking about vaccines during COVID when and I know, and we actually experienced that. I can't even say that word. I shouldn't even say that friggin' word, should I? Because we already dealt with that on where. I can't unsay it, but things happen. Things happen. And he, I'm going to have to delete this, aren't I? Because we know these bastards. Fuck. This is just so irritating to me. So irritating that I said a word.
I'll just remove it from your YouTube.
Okay.
I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to remove it from your YouTube right now.
Great. Isn't that something? You get to watch us. This is a real time what you have to go through now. You're actually talking about something important, and you're not stating something is or isn't. It's not about that, but you said the word. And therefore, the bots at YouTube will hear the word and saying that you are creating egregious harm to the public, whatever that it is they do. And then they'll give you a strike. Magnificent. So anyway.
What word? Come on.
Yeah, that word. That word. So he realizes he has now got power that he has never had before. He's got all these yokels that need to have a delicious conspiracy. And anytime you come after somebody with a syringe, it must be bad. And so builds a giant following. And of course, he's not like Donald Trump. He wouldn't have dinner with Donald Trump because they are different country clubs. Donald Trump buys a country club so that he can have the first ever membership in his life because he's so low class and such a pig. The Kennedys can walk into any country club because they'll be invited. Even though they're not WASPs, they'll be invited into a WASP country club because it's a Kennedy. It's just kind of cool. No membership because they're Catholics, but they would be invited in for an elegant dinner. But Trump never, not in a million years. So Kennedy and him would never hang out together. They would never be in social circles together. But Kennedy sees that the power is in Trump, that if he joins and endorses Trump, all those MAGA lunatics are going to now love Kennedy. And he was not loved before, not like this. And Rory, you had a wonderful prediction that
I did.
Bobby. Yes.
I think in my heart, I believe that Trump is going to throw J.D. Vance under the bus. He's going to get rid of him, and RFK is going to be his new running mate. That's my prediction.
It's kind of perfect.
Guy that trumped a bear in Central Park. Okay, boo boo.
Do you want
to get in the RFK's chart?
Would you want J.D. Vance as your vice president, a guy who drives his, I wouldn't even say it's a turgid penis because it's doubtful. Would you want him as your running mate? I mean, talk about baggage, right?
Oh man, the guy is just a train wreck from day one. I mean, did you see the thing with the donut shop that he visited, and he just had nothing to say, and the people were like, I don't want to be on camera with you. He's like, oh, just edit that out. How long?
Well,
you been here?
I was out of town I missed 8 days of beautiful American politics. But it makes sense that it fits Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is just a giant, he is a carnival barker. Let's just be clear. He is a carnival barker. And who better than J.D. Vance, hillbilly elegy, a couch fucker? Who better than that as your vice presidential candidate? Like, my guy, I have the nukes at my fingertips. He has your sofa. You watch those cushions. They're going to be stuck together. That's what I bring to the table. Well, shit. There it is. Those, hooray for the world. Hooray for Putin.
He's better than Tim Walz. Tim Walz isn't even a coach. He's an assistant coach.
Isn't it nice, though, that we have a Democratic Party, and I'm not taking sides here. I'm just highly allergic to Trump, only because he's a carnival barker and a fraud. I don't care what party. He was a Democrat forever. So he's not a Republican. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. It's a carnival barker in my country that my ancestors built. So it's disgusting and makes me want to puke. That said, Tim Walz has brought to the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris laughter. When was the last time a Democrat that I've ever seen, and I deal with lots of them on the physical old-fashioned radio every week, there's no laughing. It is a grim, desperate, afraid. I mean, it's the resistance, and they're perishing and withering, and suddenly there's some swagger. You can hear swishing genitalia under their underpants. You can see grins and snarks and smiles and winks. And there's friggin' laughter and joy in the Democratic Party. Like, finally. Like, how much laughter was there with Nancy Pelosi? Or Chuck Schumer pulling the glasses down to the end of his nose and saying how terribly I'm just so disappointed. He was just disappointed. I'm just disappointed.
I'm with you.
Yeah, just like, go away, Chuck, go away. And now we've got like this black woman with fingernails and claws, and Tim Walz with a jokester, coachster who's able to make fun of them. Yes. So is there hope?
I'm the Antichrist. That's a good one. You see what I did there?
So there seems to be hope in this country that it won't just be a slam dunk for Trump. Now, you're sitting in Orlando. What's your take on that?
Oh, I've been enjoying how all of this has unfolded the last couple of weeks. It's been heaven, watching karma go down. Trump has just been imploding for the last 2 weeks. He doesn't know where to go, what to do, what to say. He wants Biden. He's made it very clear. I want Biden back.
Biden was interesting.
I want to debate Biden. Come on.
Biden was interesting.
Stuff on the podium there, he gets all bleary-eyed and he doesn't know where he's looking, and it's great.
Easy bait. Grandpa, we just pulled him out of the hammock, and he's going to stand there. And I mean, what a dullard. Now, Biden's not hateable. He's not anyone you would dislike for any reason other than if you were Palestinian or awake. But I mean, he's not a hateable character. He's as vanilla and as much of a washcloth of nothingness, personality free, without the impediment of any kind of interesting conversation or any dynamism whatsoever. He is just a bland spaghetti noodle. So he's a perfect Democrat.
Man, that's a lot of malarkey.
And that's why what we've seen from Democrats for the last 20 years, they're the opposition party. They actually own the House. against the Republicans, and they were just such pussies. And finally, there's some life. Finally, like no pussies. Like there's two people that are willing to stand up and say, "Up yours." Why not?
The DNC.
Why not? Yeah, that's good. And it was Jill Biden who was standing behind Joe, like Howard Dean, going, "Yeah!" Telling him, "You can do it, Joe. You're like Timmy. You're 12. You can get back in the pool and back on that high dive. We'll show them you can do it." Well, nobody needs an endurance contest here. There is no upside to Joe. I'm going to get back in the ring. Walker, boom, boom. That does not help.
Here's the
What
deal.
helps is find the nearest hammock, grab a Schlitz, take a nap. You've earned it. And let the youth, the vim and vigor, people with at least some balls, whether you agree with their politics or not, but let them out, let them back into the public arena. Finally, we're actually talking about real issues again and not hairstyles. Orange hair, it's got orange. He said, his tan is dripping. His Rudy Giuliani's hair color is dripping. That's all we could talk about. No policy. But now we've got Project 2020.
It's a plumbing company. What am I doing in front of a plumbing company?
And Project 2025, the single most important thing in the world, if Project 2025 actually were to happen, all of Europe would be so fucked. And they know it because it talks about them. All those military bases, remember, World War II, who occupied Europe? We have bases in Germany. We have bases in Italy. We have bases in Turkey. We have bases here. We have bases there. All of those get reactivated under Project 2025, and the occupier takes over. And Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump cut a deal and take over that part of the world and split the oil proceeds and take their well-deserved 10% or 20 or 80%, whatever seems reasonable to them at the moment. It's all there. It's all in writing.
60-40. That is what I'm thinking.
60. Yeah, Trump will say 60-40. 60.
That's good with me. 40%'s good, Vlad. I love it. Great idea.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm enthused. Not that I'm picking a party, and I'm an independent, just by nature of what I have to do. But I'm enthused that there is some friggin' excitement, and the excitement isn't coming from people that want to do a coup d'etat. On the far right, missing teeth. That's the only place where there's been excitement. The carnival barker in the carnival with the bearded lady and the lobster boy. Like, of course it's mayhem in there, but that doesn't need to be on Main Street. It needs to be where it belongs, in a bathhouse.
In Mar-a-Lago.
In Mar-a-Lago, in the public toilet.
Come in, folks. See the wonderful Marjorie Taylor Greene, the woman with the biggest mouth in the world.
Let's
I did
ask,
not fly Jewish space lasers.
what did she say today on Elon Musk's formerly known as Twitter? She said, and of course, it doesn't mean it's true. She just said on Twitter. People treat Twitter as if it's what CNN used to be 20 years ago, or as if it was Walter Cronkite doing a report. She said,
And that's the way it is.
get up to 25% off of Uber. No, that's not what she said.
Did she say that?
No, that was Uber telling me we're number one.
Get 25% off of Uber. No, impeach Biden.
Oh, she was saying that the Foo Fighters were lying when they said that Donald Trump couldn't use their music. Let me tell you something. They weren't lying. They said no, period. No, you can't use our music for you and your commercial presidency without paying a licensing fee. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, unfortunately, there are millions of people who, she's like Sarah Palin. you know that really when she's talking to men, she's saying, we get into a private room and no one's looking. You're mine. Seriously, do you see that too, Rory?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
There is
that's
Sarah
exactly
Palin
what
porn
she's
out
doing.
there.
That's
There is Sarah
exactly what it
Palin
is.
porn out there.
There's
It's true.
there is
It's like
nothing.
Velma Dinkley porn from Scooby Doo. It's out there.
Yeah,
You can
it's
find
out there. And that's really that's the conceit. That's the secret wink, wink handshake that's going on there.
Zoinks.
Is that it's like in the 1950s watching Marilyn Monroe on an 80-foot screen. You get to cheat on your wife who's sitting right next to you. Right next to you is Madge at that in that era, or Pearl. And here's Marilyn Monroe, 31 or 2 years old, leaning forward, and these gigantic, menacing mammaries come jiggling out, 80 feet tall in the dark, and you're looking straight at them, and Madge can't see you looking straight. She knows because she sees them too, but she can't hear you thinking, and she can't see the pupil dilation. And then she can't see your baggy pants of the 1950s and you're wearing suspenders. There isn't enough lift because they're so baggy. But you know that you want to see that film again because Tony Randall was so funny. Same thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Renee, from your perspective,
when you said monstrous mammaries or whatever it was you said. So Renee, I love that segue. It's such a great, impeccable
monstrous
segue.
memories. And now Renee.
And now, speaking of monstrous mammaries,
monstrous jiggling mammaries.
With the alliteration is absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
This is Bob. Thanks for the memories hoax.
I can't think straight anymore. I can't remember what we were talking about. All I can see is the visual because Cary is the master of the visualization. I can't even talk anymore. The way he was sort of showing the unfurling of the mammaries, it was just I can't unsee it. Yeah, I'll never unsee that as long as I live.
It was like a three-handed move.
Oh my goodness.
It is a three, yes.
Goodness gracious.
And I think the sound for that would have been boom, 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 boom.
Look, speaking of this mammaries, we haven't talked about the real issue, which is that J.D. Vance, some years ago, disparaged Kamala as being a childless cat lady. And now, so I don't know if Cary, you were out, you might have been out of the country when that happened.
I come direct from my Mimo.
But that was a big deal. Now there's merch, and all of the very proud childless cat ladies have taken to social media to say that, you know, they are proud of that and that he should run away. And that was one of the things. And then J.D. Vance's wife came out to defend him and said, well, no, you guys don't understand. He just meant the ones that were willingly childless. He didn't mean the people who tried to have a child. So they've been trying to do damage control, but they're digging deeper. And at some point, at some point, somebody just told them to all just be quiet and just let it. Yeah. But my question is this: I have an actual question, and it's a statistical question, and I'm not a statistician.
Say that word again.
It's a statistical.
Say that 3 times fast.
Testicular cancer should be eradicated.
Okay, very good.
That's what you were getting at. Here's what I have, and only a statistician can answer this, but what percentage of willingly childless women who were obsessed with Trump and wanted to vote for Trump and J.D. Vance then heard that J.D. Vance had made that statement some years ago and then said, well, forget it then. I don't love Trump anymore, and I'm now going to vote Democrat. Like, I want to know what the actual statistical damage of that was. Because my guess is going to be that most of the, like how many people did that influence? That's what I want to know.
Almost none.
Right.
Because if you're already under the Mr. Ringling's big top.
That's what I'm thinking.
With Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and you're walking around in somnambulistic idiocy, you're already there. It doesn't matter who says what does it mean? Was it offensive? Was it not? Did it insult you personally? Blah, blah, blah. Because somebody's standing around the corner with an ice cream cone. Another one's got a beer. it's a circus. It's a big tent. The critical thinking is absent and has been in there for 6 years now. So really all you have to do is just wait for the next shiny object to come around the corner. This is not the high functioning part of the pyramid. The human race is shaped like a pyramid. Most people are at the bottom. They settle at the bottom like gravity. And that's where America's Got Talent is, and all of this just sort of network TV, the general bland stuff. I don't mean the occasional really excellent stuff, but just generally big tent, big cast a big net, broadcasting, mainstream shit. And they're the people that do the same thing. They go to work, they go home. They're great people. Some of them are very fine people on both sides. Eat shit, sleep. Boom, done. Very limbic. And then the pyramid gets narrower as you go up. And now in the middle, you've got people that read books on paper. They watch more complicated stuff. They probably have subscriptions. They're interested in developing and creating things. And then as you get higher up to the top, that's where you find your Noam Chomsky's and your Plato's and your Socrates and the philosophers and the really deep thinkers. And so there's very little room at the top. So it doesn't hold that many people. Trump is appealing to the very base of the pyramid. It's where all the stuff kind of spills in and goes mush on the bottom. So this is not a place where you're asking questions, where you're wondering, what does that mean? What was the nuance in that statement? I noticed the inflection that was given. So maybe they were just kidding. There's none of that there. There's just rudiment, total rudiment, or as we like to say, it's fundamental. And if you look up the meaning of fundament, it means your ass. So fundamentalism is thinking through your ass.
Is that much fun, is it?
Well, they're putting the fun back into fundamentalism because Donald Trump has reminded us that he and Jesus Christ are one and the same. And I didn't know that Donald Trump was Jewish or black, but apparently he is.
Well, he's the least racist person who's ever lived.
Ever.
Yes. He's the least sexist, and he is a genius. He's an actual genius.
A stable genius.
So
Hunter.
much.
You're
So
missing
much for the black people.
a stable genius. Yes. And he has done so much for the LGB. How did he say? LBGT people.
For the BGs. He's done a lot for the BGs.
He's done a lot. I can tell you, he's done a lot. And through his acolytes like Ron DeSantis in Florida, gay people half the time can't even get medicine in Florida. And it's not that the doctors wouldn't give it, but they are by law not required to treat. But if they do treat and someone complains that they treated an LGBT who could be trans, could be, is Donald Trump, it could be, then that doctor can be breaking state law and be punished and lose his license. So doctors just prefer not to deal with that. Just the way law firms often won't take applications from black applicants because they just assume they're going to get sued for some kind of racist thing or discrimination. You see that all over the country. They just simply avoid the application process. And that way they never get into did they make the decision or not? It just falls in the garbage can. And so the same thing with medical care in Florida. You just untreat gay people. You know, if you look, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, the STD rate and HIV rate in California is through the roof, yet PrEP is free, HIV meds are free, testing is free, but it's through the roof with migrants. And California has millions of migrants. Every avocado you eat comes from California. Every orange you drink in orange juice likely comes from California. The migrants are there. Why would their STD rate in a state where all the medical care is absolutely free, especially if you have no money, absolutely free? It's called Medi-Cal. Why in that state would you have STD rates and HIV rates going through the roof? Here's the answer. If you are a migrant and you want to get an STD test or get any kind of medical care, you have to put down your name. And if you put down your name and you are an illegal, and remember the reach and touch of Donald Trump and the echoes of that kind of anti-immigration, the Mexicans are all rapists or all this or that, the Biden administration has not done a great job in reversing a lot of that. So many of those policies are still in place. They lose their anonymity. The second they lose their anonymity because they want to get checked or tested, it is game over. They can get rounded up and cooked. So you now have tens of thousands of people running around with syphilis and problems because they can't give their name. And we don't think about it because you don't think about the person you might have hooked up with last night, maybe hooked up with a migrant who actually can't get tested because if he does, he's going to get deported. So you have to think about the chain of sequences in your private life. And these are why these policies have a problem. When you don't have universal health care, you do have a mailman who gets a disease, let's say a disease, and because he doesn't have the health care that you have, Senator, unlimited, all you can eat, free, unlimited health care, but the regular people don't have it, that mailman brings the mail that's infected, puts it in your mailbox. Your little daughter comes out, grabs that piece of mail. She's now infected, takes it into the house. Everyone's infected. Then your cleaning lady, who doesn't have health care, takes that and spreads it through all of her non-healthcare people who can't get treated anyway. And it just spreads everywhere. This is why the Europeans actually have universal health care. It's not that they're socialists. It's that after World War II, they realized they were fucked. They had been bombed to smithereens. They were covered in disease. They were suffering like hell. And they had to clean up the country and make it healthy again and make sure that person A didn't give person B something who then would give it to person C. And this is how rich people protect themselves, by the way. You don't let the poor people give you a disease. I know, it's very medieval, but it works. So all of Europe has universal health care, including Japan, including even England, which is something they gave themselves after World War II. It is in their constitution, the National Health Service, because they were having the same problems after they were bombed to smithereens. We almost had it here. Harry Truman tried to put it through, but the doctors union of the time, the guild, they said, "Are you kidding? I'm playing golf. That would cut my tea time in half. And I wouldn't be able to bill for every aspirin, a mosquito flying in the room. We had to weigh it, measure it, put light on it. That was worth $300, but we're not going to disclose how much medical costs are because we're going to make them up as we go." And here we are today. All that to say something, but I'm not sure what.
Well, universal health care, like you said, in Europe, in Canada, in a lot of places except here, Cuba. Again, it's pharmaceutical companies and like you said, doctors unions. They're making too much money. Come on. So it all boils down to one thing: lobbyists.
Yes, and you know where the word lobbyist comes from? So back in the late 1800s, you would go into the lobby of the Capitol building, and there was the cloakroom because people still wore cloaks. Look at old pictures of Abe Lincoln and the rest. That people wore cloaks, and you went into the cloakroom and hung out with your senator, your congressman, and you cut deals. You said, "I'm going to build a railroad. I need to cut it through here and through there, and I need rights of reparation for the water. I need to have eminent domain and just plow through 1 million people's houses with my railroad tracks. Can you help me, Senator?" And he's like, "Well, let me think about it." And you go, "Oh, look at that. I just spilled 8 tons of diamonds into your suitcase. Well, shit. Let me get my assistant to carry that out. We'll go get rid of those damn things. Bloody diamonds." And the next thing you know, it all unfolds. And they were called lobbyists because they were sitting in the lobby waiting for their your elected representatives to come out and then go in the cloakroom.
That makes more
Not
sense
for
than what
reach
I thought
around.
was they were lobbing money at the
Well,
lobbing
I like
money
that.
at the
I like that. That's better for today.
shooting hoops with their
Yeah.
political
Yeah.
pundits.
So, all of this stuff is based on what people did. And then, of course, it became illegal. And then with Citizens United back in, what was it, 2012, that decision, where, as Mitt Romney famously said, corporations are people too, my friend. That opened it up back to bags of diamonds, not directly to the politician. You can note, yes, but his assistant, hold this. Okay, I'm standing next to the senator holding a bag of diamonds, which I'm supposed to give to the senator, but I can't directly give it to him. And you can't directly, so I'm going to leave the room. That's legal. And then you have speech, freedom of speech, defined as money, because corporations, and they debated this in the Supreme Court, corporations can't talk. They don't have vocal cords. But they are humans because of Citizens United. So how would a corporation talk if it didn't have vocal cords? Money.
I'm a corporation. I want to give you money.
That's it. So they can just $100 million is just a very loud statement. And boy, is it. Here we are. It's beautiful. Well, I think we have kind of come to our end, or we're certainly coming up to the end here. The Bobby Kennedy thing is just, it's mind-numbing, but it's predictable. Where do you go if you want to be a superstar? You stand on the stage with the biggest clown. It just works.
He's not
So
a Kennedy.
here he is.
He doesn't sound like a Kennedy. Come on.
No, he doesn't.
He
I mean,
in fact, does not sound like a Kennedy at all.
he was that guy for a lot of years, but there's no cash and prizes in it because generally progressives and Democrats don't get excited when you do the right thing. They say, you're doing the right thing. Great. You want clean water. So do I. Good. Let's move on to the next issue that we have to deal with. They don't go crazy and put on fake teeth and run around and, act like MAGA people. They don't put on hats that said, hooray, hooray, somebody wants to drink clean water. So it doesn't build a giant fan base and a big fundraising base. But standing next to Donald Trump, people throw cash at the guy. He's like,
Yep.
whatever. And
So that's why I think they're going to get rid of J.D. Vance and they're going to put RFK in there.
Yeah.
That's
What a great fundraising tool. I think you absolutely nailed it. Vance
I don't think it's going to make a huge difference because, again, the whole platform is just negative as opposed to what you said about the Democrats, which is now party time. Hey, we're we don't think this country's horrible at all. We have the positive side. We're the positive side of all of this. But yeah, it's again, it's politics as usual. Especially with Trump. He'll turn on a dime on his grandmother if he thought it meant making an extra vote or an extra dollar.
How is it? We'll end with this. How is it that the average person doesn't see this? I mean, they see it when their neighbors do it to them. They see it when a car salesman does it to them. They see it when they get ripped off at the gym or the grocery store. They see it, but somehow they don't see it with this guy. How do they not see it? Is it just they need a Führer, they need a leader, they need a God because their lives are so empty, and he's the only one standing up promising crazy shit to them, which nobody else would actually stand up and promise because they might be forced to deliver. So maybe it's just Santa Claus in the room, and who cares? The Tooth Fairy.
I've narrowed it down to two things. Okay, one is the wealthy. Okay, he's giving tax breaks to the wealthy, so they're gonna support him 100%. Two, no matter what. Two, racism. You get all these people, that are illegally in this country, out of the country. I'm a happy camper. That's their platform. That's it.
Yeah, it's scapegoating. It's scapegoating because, as you guys
Say that
remember,
again 3 times fast.
testicular cancer. Let's eradicate testicular cancer. Because remember that Trump, everyone was laughing at him when he came down the elevator in Trump Tower, that gilded palace of sin that was, everybody was laughing at him. Everybody was laughing at him. Then he did a rally, and that's when he said the, infamous thing about they're coming over the border and they're this and they're that. And some, I presume, are good people. And, Hillary Clinton came out, and that's when she finally deigned to do an interview, and she was so self-entitled because she said, now you guys all heard him, you heard what he said. What she didn't realize is that that's what mobilized his core base. They wanted that xenophobic sort of, that was what turned them on, and they fell in love with him. They medically fell in love with him. Like a person in love, their brain scans differently than a person not in love. They were like, wow, he's going to get rid of all the people who don't look like me. That's right. It's like just another like a Hitler thing, oh, let's just blame it all. And that's typically what happens. But it just inspired their fervor. That is why they like him, because they think he's the bad person who grabs people by their whatever, and that he's, somebody said once that he's their idea of what a rich person would be like. So he's their hero. They're in love with him. He's going to get rid of all people who are not looking like them or acting like them. And once he does that, they'll get jobs again. Because remember, the reason why that person's not getting a job is because of this guy who's picking an avocado in California. In their brain, that computes. It's jealousy.
And you hit on another thing. Because of that Apprentice show, they think he's a real billionaire. They do.
Yeah.
And he's not. And that's why he didn't want his tax information to get out. That's why he didn't want to admit that he couldn't pay the $150 billion, what was it, bail bond from one of his cases, the New York case, right? Because that would prove that he is not the big businessman billionaire that they all want him to be. It's so funny today that even today they say, oh, well, he's a big businessman. He knows what he's doing. He's not. He's a failed businessman. Everything he's put his hands on is turned to crap. Trump steaks, Trump planes, Trump Tower. Most
Trump
of what
University.
he's done is bankruptcy.
And Trump sneakers.
Yeah. Coming out with Trump mittens, folks. They're beautiful. Just $49.99.
Carnival Barker. Just amazing. Well, I am so glad. It's a charlatan. It's a bona fide charlatan that people wish not to see, because he's the only one in the whole country offering them what they actually already should have if they lived in a first world country. But we live in a third world country posing as a first world country, and he's offering the things they should already have that he will never deliver. And they're hungry, and so they're eating. So it's kind of on us for letting it get so out of control. I hate to say. I'm not taking full responsibility, but I will take 1%.
I blame Steve Bannon.
Yes.
I totally 100% blame Steve Bannon. Look at the monster you've created. Rupert Murdoch was even like, what the hell have I done?
Yes, right.
Buying into that
right.
shit.
And the other Stephen Miller. There's a piece of sinister work. He's the guy behind.
He and Jared Kushner are both Bond villains. They really are.
I mean, Kushner walked away with $150 million from the Middle East, from cutting deals with the Saudis and everyone else under Trump. Like, that has got to be absolutely patently illegal, but somehow it's not.
I want to believe that, if he loses in November, and when he loses in November, that he's going to flee, and that the Republican Party is going to find out that he took so much money that they didn't realize and put it into Swiss bank accounts, and I got you too. Winning.
That would be good.
He's going to go totally Charlie Sheen.
I like that happy ending. Well, I appreciate you guys. I have missed you. It has been way too long. We'll do more of these. Next week will be a new week with more horrors to discover, uncover, and have fun with. And maybe we can bring on some bizarre guest and just bat them around like a kitten with a fur ball.
With monstrous mammaries. As long as they have monstrous mammaries, I'm in.
Okay, let's do that. Let's find.
Right, and they have to unfurl. Like, they're yeah. Thank you.
Who's the cat though? The cat woman, the socialite that had so much plastic surgery. Get her on there. Watch those plastic memories bound out.
Actually, if she could just wear a top that's halfway down so we get areoli, half moon areoli, and then maybe just one, maybe she could breastfeed on the air.
Maybe she's literally the cat woman. She's probably got like 6 breasts. Suckle this, darling.
I want to go see the new Alien movie. Have you seen it yet in the theaters?
I have not.
I want to see that. I stopped going to theaters, years ago because what a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
But there's some things we have to have a communal experience, like a horror movie, like an Alien movie. So I'm thinking of that.
Well, I took my daughter to a matinee to see Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And that, some of my friends hated it, but I loved it. I thought it was great. It's
fun.
It pokes fun at everything Marvel. It's just so great.
Well, if you happen to be
multiverse.
Well, I wish I were in town where you are, but we're like 90 minutes apart. But it would be fun to watch the Alien movie together.
Looks pretty scary.
Yeah, looks good. Well, listen, you guys, I appreciate it very much. The great and powerful Renee Yawarski.
With
a
monstrous
woman,
mammaries, of course.
monstrous mammaries.
I'm unfurling them as we speak. That's why I'm not on camera. I'm
Thanks for that
unfurling.
visual before the show ends.
Remember, it's a 3-part process.
It's a 3-part. It's like the flag,
Look at those areolas.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm doing. And thank you so much. We're glad to have you back, Cary. It
Yeah,
hasn't been
we
the
missed
same
you.
without you. We've needed you. We cried. We did we paid for whalers, professional whalers to come
Okay,
and
this is
whale
good.
But
every
the whale
night.
juice. Oh, man.
And the
Had to put a
whale
bag on my
juice
head.
yes, it smelled like whale juice, the whalers. So anyways, yes, now we can send those home. They don't have to do that, in the background all day. So we'll get some good sleep now that you're home. Now that daddy's home, we can rest.
Who's your daddy?
Home.
Well, we will see you
Daddy's
guys
home.
all next week. Probably at this time, we'll find out. And we will never say that word again because we know what happens when we do, whatever that word is.
You upset Dr. Fauci.
It was a very bad word. It was a very bad word, and we know what's going to happen. So, yeah. We apologize to him.
To the Alphabet Corporation.
Right. We apologize.
Because we know they're personally wounded at the notion of saying a word because they, as an open source free speech advocate, hate free speech and open source. It's a paradox and an irony, but what are you going to do?
It's an open sore.
It's an open sore. All right, you guys, I will see you next time. And thank you, Rory Penland. Thank you, Renee Yawarski. And thank you, everyone watching and participating. And we will look forward to seeing you next time.